This paranormal story made my skin crawl. A Reddit user who we'll call Emily had just moved to a brand new apartment in Melbourne, Australia. Now, it was Emily's first time living alone, and the apartments that she moved into were built in the 1930s. And well, according to her story, she goes to work one day, and when she comes home, she goes into the bathroom and sees something strange. A board that had been covering a hole leading to an attic space on the ceiling had fallen to the ground and split in two. Well, Emily picks up the two pieces of the board, and the board's like an inch thick. It would have taken like Bruce Lee level force to break this board. So Emily slowly looks up at this attic space that's now exposed, and she is suddenly frozen stiff with fear. And she's thinking, somebody's got to be up there. But then it occurred to Emily, you know what, maybe my landlord just sent somebody to do some work while I was gone. So she emails her landlord, a little bit annoyed, to ask if anybody had been in her apartment. Pretty quickly, Emily gets an email response from her landlord that just says, please call me as soon as you can. So Emily calls her landlord, the landlord answers, and Emily explains the situation, and Emily's landlord goes, oh, it happened to you too. Apparently this had happened to two tenants before Emily, and the landlord promised to replace the board. About a month later, Emily wakes up around 4 a.m. and her skin is crawling with goosebumps, and she says it felt like somebody was rubbing their hands all over her. And as she's laying there, like experiencing this sensation, everything is dead silent until all of a sudden she hears this sound above her head, and she describes it as sounding like somebody's dragging a sack of potatoes on the floor above her. At this point, Emily's really starting to freak out because this sound doesn't sound like an animal. After about 5 minutes, Emily grabs a cricket bat, gathers her courage, and creeps down the hall to the bathroom, where she looks and finds that that board that the landlord had replaced was again in the floor and broken in two. Emily had a sick feeling come over her, and all of a sudden the dragging sound stops, but a new sound begins. It was a whispering sound, and she said it was clear as day, coming from the attic. And it sounded like children's voices, and there was one voice saying over and over, it's your turn, it's your turn. So Emily dashes out of the bathroom and she flips on every light in the house, just trying to get something to feel normal. She even goes into the living room, turns on the TV, sits down, and tries to calm herself down when suddenly a fuse blows, and her pet bird all of a sudden starts squawking its head off like it's being strangled. This becomes the breaking point. Emily says, screw the bird. She grabs her car keys, runs out of the house, and closes herself in her car until morning. Finally, when the sun comes up, she sees people start going to work, walking their dogs, and she starts to feel a little safe again, and so she gets out of her car, goes back into her house to check things out. She goes to check on her bird. The bird is not in its cage. She finds her bird half drowned in the toilet. She moves out of that apartment and never looks back.
Girl, that was a lie, friend. So we're just going to sit here and think about what we just heard, because that was so much. And there's so many instances in this story that I would have made a different choice. I would have made a different choice than what she had made. Because if I come home and something's not right, and I notice it, because you know I will, Virgo raised by Aries, I'm going to know when something's not right. I'm immediately going to be investigating. You talking about you called your landlord and he's like, oh, it happened to you too? There's been two other people. Whatever happened to honesty? Like, let's communicate openly about what's going on, what happened in the past, so I know, so I can get prepared, so I can make that decision if I want to accept this future for myself. This experience that might just happen. Let me be the judge of this. I was like, people just be money hungry and don't want to tell the truth. Like, ooh, you will find someone who will enjoy that, who will want to live there. Not I, but someone else. There's so many places. Like, oh, girl, bye. In that moment, I would have found my landlord and beat they mother freaking butt. I would have, because what you setting me up, oh bad. I'm going to set my hands up for you. Like, what are we doing? You better square up, because, girl, what? The moment that happened, it'll be done. It'll be done. You talking about you wake up and you hear a sack of potatoes being dragged. You know what that was, being dragged. Like, it's like, what was the history? Understand it was made in the 1930s. First of all, why are we there? Like, I understand that, it's not the property, it's the land, the history of the land, but still, I'll be like, ooh, the 1930s. It's like, yo, Because what is going on? It's like, what is the history of that house? What had happened in the attic? Like, if that was made in the 1930s, you know that building itself has history. Like, it was just, I wouldn't be in this situation, because the moment that happened and you go into the bathroom and you see what you see, like, I understand cutting on all the lights, because that would have been my first thought. And to get a weapon, we did great things, and some things I agree with, but other things it's just like, yo, while we sitting in the house, while we hearing all this motion, this commotion, all this stuff is going on, and we're just gonna sit on the couch in the living room. Girl, what are we doing? Not that. We're not doing that. Girl, nah. She was like, freak the bird. I don't blame her for that. I wash washers, you guys. That's what it made me think of, washers, because she took that bird everywhere with her. And good thing she did, because I was just like, when I first saw the birds, when she was in the woods, when she first got there, I was like, girl, follow the birds, because I watch all these videos, so I'm picking up tips and pointers, like things that just make sense now. But yeah, I would have took the bird. Well, I don't know if you got the bird, it's like bird or me. Sorry. Sorry, animal lovers. Love the animals. You know how I feel about birds. You know I be real sensitive with the windows and the birds. But it's gonna be me today, friend. It's gonna be me today, boo. Like, we're getting out this place. She just sat in her car though. Like, I don't know. I think I would have left and never came back. Forget the stuff. Forget it. I don't need that stuff. I can buy new stuff. All I need is my importance. And that's all in a folder in one compartment in my house. I can gather it all quickly and leave. Because I always have an escape plan. Girl, it was too much going on in that house. I wouldn't want to know anything about it. Like, history first. But after I left, I don't need to know anything. I don't need to know what happened, what was going on during that time. Like, I'm at peace now. I'm gone. Don't even matter.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I debated for a long time on if I even wanted to tell this story, because quite frankly, every time I tell it, it just creeps me out all over again. So I kind of try to just not think about it. But a few years ago, our family experienced one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my nearly 37 years of life. So back in 2020, my oldest son had just turned 3 around this time. And up until this point, he had been an amazing sleeper. He was the type of kid who you could say, okay, Lawson, it's bedtime. And he'd take himself to his room. He'd soothe himself to sleep. He was a great sleeper. He slept all through the night. And I guess kind of to backtrack, it's maybe mildly important. I don't know how big of a role this doll really plays into the story, or if she's just a coincidence, but I had received a doll from an aunt that had been passed down in my family. Originally, it belonged to my great-great-grandmother and kind of cycled through every girl in our family. Everybody hates this doll. It's also important to note. Everybody always claimed that this doll is haunted. I didn't know how much I really believed that. Yes, it's creepy because it's an old creepy doll. And I'll see if I can find a picture of it and post it at the end of this video. But when it ended up with us, my oldest son did love this doll, played with it all the time, talked to it all the time. And not long after he started interacting with this doll, did all of this happen. So anyway, one night he has a terrible nightmare. He's screaming, crying, won't go back to sleep, needs me or my husband with him. So I go to him, I lay down with him in his room, and I'm like, it's okay, buddy, I'm here, I'm gonna lay with you, I'll be with you tonight, you don't have to be scared. And the whole time I'm laying with him, trying to get him to go back to sleep, he is like staring over my shoulder off into the corner of his room. And I go to turn my head to see what he's staring at, and he stops my face with his hands. He's like, no, mommy, don't look at him. He's really scary. So I'm like, all right, let's go lay down in my bed. So I carry him and all of his things. We go lay down in my bed, and he's still just not very settled. Still seems really shaken up. I'm like, buddy, you're in mommy and daddy's bed. You're safe now. It's fine. Let's go back to sleep. He's like, I know, but now he's staring at me from over there, a corner in my room. And this is just the beginning of a situation that went on for nearly a year. So after this, almost every single night, he's having terrible nightmares. And it gets to a point where he absolutely refuses to go in he won't even go in his room to play. He won't even go in his room to get a toy out. If there's a toy in there that he wants, he will not go in his room alone. And he's also telling us in vivid detail the same story every single night, that he is seeing something crawl out of his closet and stand by his window, which is right next to his bed, and it's staring at him like this. And he says it's trying to eat him. He tells us this every single night, and this goes on for months and months. We're all exhausted. None of us are sleeping well because of this. And one night, I remember that we have leftover holy water from Lawson's baptism. So I'm like, you know what? We don't have anything to lose at this point. So I sprinkle it around his room. I create like a whole barrier around his bed, basically, just to see what happens. Like I said, we had nothing to lose at this point. And believe it or not, he actually slept better that night. But my youngest son, who was just a baby at the time, he has a horrible night sleeping. He's up screaming, seems scared, creeped out, whatever. And then the next day, when I have to take Lawson to preschool, he refuses to go. And typically he loved school at this time, but he refuses to go because he does not want his baby brother left alone. He is terrified and makes me promise that I won't leave his baby brother alone in his bedroom. I have to be with him all day. And I have to promise him, like, buddy, he's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be with him the whole time. He won't be left alone. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And at this point, you know, I'm really freaked out at this point. I had also taken a picture of my husband on the monitor in Lawson's bedroom, where he had been laying on the floor holding Lawson's hand, trying to help him fall asleep. And I didn't notice it until after I took the picture, but you can see like the shadow of a hand or a claw like holding my husband's shoulder as he holds Lawson's hand, trying to help him fall asleep. And I'll post that picture too, but that, even just thinking about it, gave me the worst chills, like just to my core, freaked me out. This was also around the time that filter was trending on TikTok, where people were kind of walking around their house with this filter, and then if the temperature changed colors, it was supposed to show you if your house was haunted or not. And so of course I'm like, oh, just for shits and giggles, let's see what pops up on here. I take it in Lawson's bedroom, not seeing anything. So then I take it into the closet where he always says he's seeing this thing come out of. And of course it lights up like a Christmas tree. And I try to rationalize it away, but at this point, like I said, we're all just so creeped out. And this has gone on for nearly a year at this point. So we end up contacting a priest. And, you know, he's telling us that sometimes dark spirits or evil things can attach themselves to objects. He's asking us, you know, if we brought anything new into the house. I mentioned the doll. I mentioned that, you know, people in my family have said creepy things have happened where this doll is surrounded, but I mean, I don't really know, you know? So he does recommend me giving him the doll so that he can dispose of it properly. So we make arrangements to do that. And then he asked me if Lawson is calling this thing by any specific name. And I'm like, he is actually. He calls this thing Bow. And he goes, well, there is actually a demon. And I don't want to say his name because he told me that, you know, names hold power. But there is a powerful demon and his name is Baal. And he has like a thing for firstborn male children, all of this stuff. And it creeped me out so bad, learning the information about this demon. I just can't tell you how unsettling it was. We get rid of the doll. We pass the doll off to the priest. He gives us some very specific instructions on very specific things to say and do around our house. He has us open a Bible to a very specific passage and then place this open Bible in the closet and leave it there. And eventually things do calm down. He starts sleeping a little better at night. He's not talking about it every day. But even still to this day, if things have gotten better, he doesn't mention it, but he still won't sleep in that room without somebody with him. He's nearly 7. He's just turned 7 at this point and wants somebody still to sleep in bed with him and help him fall asleep. And if you even mention the name Bow or Baal, he freaks out. We're all still shaken up by it. But anyway, so yeah, that's our creepy ghost story. And I'll post those pictures now.
Bruh, I know you saw what I saw. I know you saw what I saw. Girl, comment below. Comment below because I know you saw what I saw. I know you saw what I saw in that last picture. I didn't see what she saw when it came to... Oh, that's my... Girl, I'm over here looking. He got me in my feelings, but we good over here. Ain't nothing evil or anything over here. Only God, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled. We are covered and protected by Jesus Christ, honey. Honey, when she was telling me this little boy, like, you gotta love this little boy. He seems like he's a good kid. He's a good older brother. We were just literally talking about that with these experiences with the new babies. The new girl. That doll looks... I've seen a doll like that. I've seen many dolls like that, honestly. I feel like... Yeah, I've seen many dolls like that, especially at the thrift store. So yeah, no, friend. When your family says there's experiences, they have experiences with this object in their house, why we gonna keep on playing? Why we ain't doing that about it? Why we keep on passing it around? No, it's time to get rid of it. Cause ain't no way that would have entered into my house when you already told me that there's history, creepy history with this object. No, that's wild, friend. Heck no. They messed up your whole baby, scarred your whole child, bruh. Nah, forget that. She was right when she was like, they got the holy word. That's great. That's the first step. Like, we need more steps. We need to cleanse the whole house, everything. Because, honey, what in the world? The baby, the poor baby, bro. Like, yo, like, that last picture is just like, it says it all, bro. I didn't see the shadow on the husband's arm, but it was going really quick. So if you need to go back a little bit and pause it and investigate, comment below what you see, if you saw the hand. But we know what we saw in that last picture. We know what we saw. No, friend, I don't know about that filter she's talking about. Never heard of it, and I'm not going to go seeking it either, because that is wow. You're telling me that all these things lined up to be evidence, and we're still not doing anything about it. We're still living in the house 4 years later, and the baby's still nervous. And he's like, I ain't gonna talk about it. Like, girl, He like, I'ma deal with it. Like, cause I don't want it to affect my little brother. So he took on that burden. Oh, that little baby. Pray for them. Pray for them. Cause honey, what? The information she got, like, it was just so much going on. Girl, bye. Girl, bye.
Paranormal story time. This is by far one of the scariest paranormal stories that I've ever heard in my life. And I'm warning you right now, if you scare easily, do not watch this video. What I'm about to tell you had me scared for days. A young girl by the name Bella, she wanted to go to one of her cousin's houses, so she asked her mom, hey, can you drop me off? And her mom agreed and said, yes, I'll take you. When she gets to her cousin's house, 2 of her cousins are there, and their names are Maddie and Alyssa. The afternoon for these girls was filled with teenage joy. Like a typical girls' day, listening to music, gossiping, scrolling through social media, but boredom, as it often does, crept in. And one of Bella's cousins, Maddie, suggested they walk to a cemetery. Alyssa and Bella are like, no, we don't want to go. Maddie's persistent, like, come on, let's go, it'll be fun, a little spooky adventure. Maddie was persuasive enough and convinced Bella and Alyssa to come with her to the cemetery, which was about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the house. As the girls approached the cemetery, they went through the back entrance. They did not want to go through the front. As soon as they got there, Bella felt like they were not alone. Right off jump. She just felt so uncomfortable, like, she's like, we are not the only ones here, like, something is not right. And she didn't want to go anyway, so she was already on edge. For 30 minutes, they wandered amongst the tombstones. They started to have a good time. They're laughing, chit-chatting. At this time, it's around 6 to 7 p.m. And they were all alone, or so it seemed. And this is when Bella's phone rang. Bella looked down at her phone at the caller ID, and it says, Mom. Her mom, who just had earlier dropped her off at her cousin's house. She picked up the phone and she's like, hey mom, what's up? And this is when everything takes the creepiest turn. Her mom's like, Bella, where are you? Her mother's voice sounded frantic, almost strained. Bella's like, Mom, you dropped me off at Alyssa's. What are you talking about? Bella's confusion quickly turned to alarm. What? Like, what? Like, she's just so confused, like, what the fuck just happened? Then Bella and her 2 cousins' phones all start glitching out at the same time. Their apps are closing in and out. The phones are coming on and turning off by themselves. All of their phones just started to not work. Then in the calling app that popped up on Bella's phone, it started entering in the number 24 over and over and over again. 24 flashing repeatedly on her screen. This is when Bella's heart dropped into her stomach. 24 was her cousin's basketball number who died in a car crash 3 years earlier. That's not even the craziest part of the story. Just wait. All 3 of the girls got up out of the cemetery very, very fast. They were heading back to Alyssa's house. And as they tried to leave the cemetery, a big branch from a tree fell like within 2 to 3 feet away from them and almost hit all of them. When they all got back to Alyssa's house, they sat in the front room and pretty much just went over the events that had just happened, and these young girls were obviously scared, as anybody would be. They all go to bed and wait until the next morning. The next morning, Bella is still shaken up, and she decides to call her mom. Her mom picks up and she's like, Mom, about last night. Her mom's like, yes, sweetie? She's like, why did you call me asking where I was? You knew you dropped me off at Alyssa's. And there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Her mom doesn't say anything. She's like, Bella, honey, I didn't call you last night. I lost my phone, and I just found it this morning right before you called. Excuse me? Say what? What did you just say? Bella's like, then who called me then? Like, it was your voice, like I spoke to you. And the question just hung in the air. Who called? For protection of the victims in this story, I did change their names. This story was submitted to me by a follower of mine. If you have a creepy paranormal story time that you would like to be told, you can DM me your story on Snapchat, Instagram, or here on TikTok at Crime Queen. You girls stay spooky, and I love you. I'll see you in the next one.
What? Nah. Cause you had no business being in that cemetery anyway. Ain't no freaking. I'm just thinking about my childhood. My cousins taught me into a lot of stuff. Cause I was like amongst the youngest. It was like, well, actually, I feel like I was the middle cousin. It was 1, 2, 3. It was 4 people under the age of me, and then 4 people above the age of me. Was that right? No. So there's 5 younger than me and 3 older than me. So I wasn't the middle cousin. I was amongst the older cousins. And I always thought I was younger than if I think about my child. But no, yes, I was always taught in the situations. And I would look at my younger cousins and they would look at me like, what we doing? I'd be like, oh, shoot, what are we doing? Oh my goodness, I'm the voice of reason for the youngest. I'm the voice of reason. I'm just thinking about all the situations I've been put in with my cousins that I was just following them. But no, Fred, why y'all in the cemetery? Your phone's glitched out. not even asking that question. Like, that W doesn't need to be answered because, you know, it's just like, we can say that what, but the other W, oh, heck no. It wasn't your mama. That's something we do know. It was your girl. No, who was playing? Ooh, I said it. I said the W. I don't want to know. Maybe they want to know, but I don't want to know. Y'all should have been up in there. I'm mad about the fact that y'all went back to your cousin's house and didn't have no action about you. Like, you went back to your cousin's house and shared events like, oh yeah, this happened. Okay, this happened. Oh, this really happened. And didn't think to call your mother back that night when you got there. That would have been my first thought. If I couldn't get in contact with my mother by phone, I would have been at my house, honey. Like, girl, wow, what is up with these kids? You just like, where your thought process at? Like, where you at? Where your head at, honey? Maybe they were just so scared they went to bed. But after you experience something that scares the mess out of you, how do you sleep? I want to know what's going on. Like, make sure everyone in my life is safe, because that was just not a coincidence that number, and you automatically, that's the thing, it's been 3 years, that number, and it's a basketball jersey number, and you automatically think about, like, it's the memory, the thought, the connection is made. Like, I can't even yes, I can. There's just one person who passed away during my childhood who was a star football player, and not at my school, but at the neighboring school, and his number is engraved in our minds. Like, but I don't think if I saw that number I would immediately think of him, even though knowing the backstory behind it. Like, that number is engraved in our head, that's his number, that's his jersey number. Would have never, like, so yeah, wasn't a coincidence. Y'all shouldn't have been up in that cemetery, and somebody was trying to communicate with y'all, and you didn't want to communicate with them. Basically, you ain't need to communicate with them. You needed to be at your house. Stop being bored. There's so much you can do. I'm an only child. I have never been bored in my life. I don't think I have. So what are y'all excuse? It's 3 of y'all. Yeah. Anyway, like this video, follow all the creators, and subscribe.